It begins as Bo is narrating about things that happened and what her intuition has told her. It's been 8 years since the last drop of rain, and no one knows what to do except raise the price of water since the wells dried up. They can't grow their food anymore, and it's gotten harder for them to stay in hiding. She mentions Ruth and how she missed her and wonders if she's survived. Ruth escapes from an abandoned-looking building and drives off. She goes to a motel to get herself a room, and she sees the receptionist with her daughter and has visions that disturb her. She tips her and leaves for her room. Once inside, she cuts off the ropes from her arms and cleans up. Soon her hand starts to shake, and she brings down everything in the room before she calls the receptionist to tell her to get under the desk with her daughter and hide. She then lies in bed having a seizure as an earthquake begins and shakes the whole place. The police arrive at the motel but fail to find Ruth, who has stolen a car and driven off. At a cafe, she meets Bill, a married man with 2 kids, who asks where she's headed. Saying little, Ruth watches him leave. When she exits, a police officer is near her car, but Bill calls out, pretending they're together. In his car, he offers help, but she only asks to be taken to the nearest town. Bill reveals he's a scientist and knows about the motel incident. Calling her by name, he says he wants to help, but Ruth panics, pulls a gun, and shoots his hand before escaping through a window into the field. Ruth finds a supermarket and buys water. The cashier shows her the bathroom, and she cleans herself up as her face is smeared with blood. She starts to have flashbacks of her past, but leaves the shop. The car Bill was driving is found by one of the police officials named Ellis, as Bill arrives at the supermarket with his face bleeding and asks if the cashier has seen Ruth. He continues to ask where he is and where he should head next, as the frightened cashier helps him with the location. Ruth walks into a bar and asks for food, but since she doesn't have cash to pay, she offers to wash the dishes. After everyone leaves, she stays behind to clean up, and she plays music that she starts to enjoy. The owner calls her out and gives her a sandwich, some water, and washed clothes. She tells her she can stay at one of the motels that don't work anymore if she can find a room that has a door. The next morning, Ruth walks a long way to find herself at her old house. Inside that house is Bo and her granddaughter Lila. Lila is telling Bo how she fixed the record player, and she is impressed with her skills. Lila is excited to try and fix the truck next. However, Bo sends her to bed before she plays music and goes outside to have a smoke. Soon, Ruth approaches her and turns the cigarette into ashes before she brings it back up and tells her not to smoke. Bill is joined by another man in his motel room. Ruth tries to convince an angry Mo that she has no other place to stay. Bo tells her she can't stay since she made her lie for her saying that Ruth is dead. Ruth tells her she's been sober for a while even though the seizures might come back, but she's done it anyway, and that she had 2 seizures in a day. Affected by this, Bo asks if someone is aware of her abilities, and that she can't put Lila in danger again before telling her that Lila is a bright girl. Bo gives Ruth a place at the barn and gives her food and clothes. She remembers how hard it was to tie Ruth when her seizures started, but learns that she doesn't need them anymore. Ruth asks if Lila has abilities too, but they are not like hers. Ruth learns that there's no one around for miles and that the earthquake might be heard by Lila when her seizures begin. That night, Lila is awakened by the earthquake and calls out for Bo, who takes her to the barn to show her Ruth and tells her she's her mother. Bill, who has Ruth's things, starts going through her bag. His friend who joined him earlier calls him to leave and they head to the police station. The next day, Ruth finds Lila fixing the truck. They go inside for a meal and Ruth joins awkwardly. During dinner, Ruth mentions the bowl Lila is using was hers before it broke. She wants to fix it, but learns their abilities can only dismantle and reassemble things, not truly repair them. Lila asks about Ruth's abilities, and Ruth is surprised Bo didn't share details. Ruth explains that when she used her powers, strange things happened, leading to seizures that eventually stopped her from using them. She admits she left because she was sick, but avoids mentioning her addiction. The medicines Bo gave didn't help, and though the seizures stopped, her abilities never returned. Ruth came back home to Bo when she was pregnant with Lila. Bo encourages Lila to show her abilities to Ruth, and she does. She concentrates and brings up the bowl she was eating from. Soon, the bowl turns into colorful ash mid-air while they all look. Once it hits the table, it's back to being a bowl. Ruth learns that Lila can see the colors, and Bo has always seen them her whole life. Lila is amazed that Ruth can't see the colors as she explains what it feels like. She tells her after she puts back together whatever it is she took apart. Everyone sees the object, but she sees the colors, and they're like an echo that surrounds everything. She tells her it feels warm and makes her happy. To make them last longer, she must do something big, but when she forgets where she is, they leave. At the station, Ellis learns that Bill and his friend took the evidence sample from the car, and he calls to confirm. He makes it clear that them being involved in this case is not right. However, the person on the other end tells him the samples are gone, and there's nothing he can do now. Outside, Bo tries to help Ruth pick a bucket with her abilities, but it doesn't seem to work. They go home, and Bo reads her a story that her great-grandmother has written from a book that all women in their family write on. Ruth learns that every woman has lived in the same house they're in. Soon, Lila comes up with an idea that instead of the bucket, Ruth just thought about when Lila took the bowl apart, and instead of having to imagine, she could just remember. They go back outside, and as they're practicing, the window upstairs shatters. While cleaning up, Lila brings many questions to Ruth. She asks if there are others like them and that they wouldn't know since they're all hiding. Ruth tells her about Simona, a character that Bo brought up to help Ruth, who can take apart the sky. After going up, Bo tells her Simona isn't real. Ruth suggests that Lila tries to put together the shattered glass instead of dumping it. For a moment it seemed like it would work, but the glass fell to the floor, and Lila left. Elise arrives at the supermarket where Bill and Ruth have already been and asks the cashier if he's seen who's been in the car that he found by the side of the road. The cashier asks if he's in trouble and tells him details about Ruth and Bill. At home, Bo asks what Ruth was thinking of as the glass shattered, and Ruth admits that she wasn't thinking about the bowl, as she remembers she was looking at Lila's face. At that moment, they hear an engine starting and go outside to look. Lila begs Bo to take her to the store to buy tools that help her fix the truck. Bo agrees to go and also to buy some extra water. Ellis arrives at the bar where Ruth has already been and asks the bartender some questions. Ruth learns that her wounds have healed. Soon the phone starts to ring, but she leaves it to voicemail. Arriving at the store, Lila goes looking for her tools, but she runs into Bill and the other man. Not knowing who they are, she grabs the items she needs and they leave the store. Ruth is at home trying to concentrate and move the bowl by trying to remember how Lila did it. Cloud starts to gather behind her, but soon she's interrupted by Bo. Lila goes to her room and brings out the tools she has stolen using her abilities. At nighttime, Ruth reads what Bo has written about her in the book. She tells her about the phone and leaves for Lila's room. She gives her some of her old stuff and tells her about her music records. Lila, after learning that the truck is Ruth's, tells her that she's fixing the truck to leave Bo and see what's out there, believing that their abilities mean something. However, Ruth tells her not to rush to leave since she's only too young, and reminds her they're not superheroes. She bids her goodnight and leaves her room. Bo learns that the phone call was from Ellis and it's their old Cigna. He wants to meet her and she waits for him. After he arrives, she tells him that Ruth is back. He mentions the car he found by the roadside and asks if she knows anything. Bo goes straight home and confronts Ruth about Bill, worried she's put Lila in danger. But she tells her Bill attacked her, and she defends herself and argues there's no other thing to it. Lila gets to the barn and asks if Ruth is leaving, but Ruth has decided to stay. Bill gets into trouble for leaving the car out and losing Ruth when he has the chance to hand her to his boss. He explains that Ruth can cause tectonic plates to shift, and plates that have never moved before. He urges his boss to get him back up and keep him out of trouble with the car. Bo tells Ruth about how she met her lover, Ruth's father. She snuck out of the house and went to the candy store where Elis met her. She used to go there every Saturday and have a walk with him. Her mom finds out, and the second time she finds out, Bo is already pregnant with her. Lila fixes the truck outside and Ruth gives her the keys. However, Bo sees the tools Lila has stolen and gets angry as she takes away the keys. Soon Ellis arrives and he tells Bo that Ruth's been tracked down and that she needs to leave. As Lila questions why he's helping them, Ruth tells her that Ellis is her father and her grandfather. Ellis explains that after realizing Ruth's seizures are dangerous, they all decided to move to where Bo grew up, away from the city. Bo urges Ruth to leave by giving her the keys to the truck. Lila begs her to take her, but Ruth drives off. In the middle of the road, the gas rubs out and Ruth runs to the nearest gas station. On the way, she starts to remember what it was like with Lila when she was a kid. They were playing in bed and suddenly Ruth started having a seizure which broke down a water pipe, filling the whole house with water. Once conscious, she dives under the water to retrieve Lila. Soon the sky opens up and she starts to see the colors as she runs to get gas. She drives back home, still seeing the colors in the sky. Arriving, she finds the house messed up and she goes to Elis. He explains that Bill and Joe showed up and took Lila to the station. Convincing Bo that she can fix it, she heads to the station. She uses her abilities to bring out clouds and it begins to rain as everyone goes outside to look. Bill and the rest of the team go out to arrest her, but Bo turns their guns into ashes. Lila brings down the door from inside where she was locked and goes outside. Bo tells her to go with Ruth as she turns back and tells Bill to arrest her and let them go. It ends as Bo goes into the station, bringing the door back up as they all see. Ruth and Lila drive off to somewhere far away while laughing as Lila hands her a note that says Simona is real and somewhere in Rome with others like them. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed the video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.